I recently reread 1984 by George Orwell. Even though I had owned the book since my university days, I had never read it again. In my sociology class, I read it along with other books such as Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman. There was no way I could have imagined that the ideas presented in it would be realized. Here's something I wanted to share with you. Before publishing my book, One World Under Surveillance, I decided to review an old, slightly tattered copy of Orwell's classic work I had kept on my bookshelf for years. My first impression as I began reading it was how closely it resembled today's global digital environment. After realizing these alarming parallels, my work has been profoundly impacted, and I am now ready to publish my book. In George Orwell's epical dystopian novel, a third of the world lives under the watchful eye of Big Brother. Winston can only dream of a life free of omnipresent surveillance. Today, not only does it seem passé to care about how often you're caught on CCTV, but we seemingly invite and enjoy surveillance with our camera doorbells, smart speakers, constant vertical videoing, and obvious constant monitoring of our online behavior, preferences, opinions, and desires. Our mobile phone numbers are tracked in physical space, and our data can be sold and traded to unseen parties. We are so conditioned to the normalcy of all this that the internet mantra "pics or it didn't happen" summarizes our modern belief that everything must be documented to make things worthwhile and real, and we are alarmingly casual about how all this data can be correlated and combined through master data elements like email addresses or mobile phone numbers to provide a comprehensive and detailed description of our inner lives. There has been a lot of discussion about how the novel 1984 was a forewarning about individual freedom. However, the book deals with how constant monitoring through various means can infiltrate our minds and, in doing so, affect our behavior and thoughts. The citizens in the book are under constant scrutiny, and they learn how to regulate their thoughts, actions, facial expressions, and even their breathing. They use techniques like Crime Stop to stop themselves from having dangerous thoughts, and double-think to be truthful while telling lies. Interestingly, this resembles how we often censor ourselves on social media and willingly subject ourselves to surveillance in exchange for recognition. Actor and influencer Anna Wolferman said in early February 2024, "Enough." In an online video posting with more than 1.5 million views, the 22-year-old revealed that she had decided against full-time influencerdom. "I'm tired of making everything about myself," Wolferman said. "When I'm out with my friends, get coffee, or do anything with my life, I have to take time out of my day to take a picture of me or take a video of me." More troublingly, Wolferman said that performing for the camera has changed how she speaks. 1984 famously featured Newspeak, the state's condensed official vocabulary, which limits a person's ability to tackle complicated concepts and cuts language down to the bone. In Wolferman's video, she said, "On TikTok, you have to talk in short sentences. I've had to learn to not elaborate on my ideas. Like citizens living under Big Brother, netizens have taught themselves to self-censor to please all-seeing algorithms." In 1984's Newspeak, us double plus good refers to something excellent. Ungood has replaced the word bad. On TikTok, people fear that using controversial words will get their videos banned from the app. As a result, suicide and death have been replaced by the euphemistic unalive. As a writer on surveillance, I've met many people who respond to today's surveillance society by being performative or self-censoring. I've spoken with people who film their children's entire lives, see Rolling Stone magazine article, as content, and I've heard from mental health professionals who fear using the words depression and self-harm on social media platforms. I've met people who lament commodifying their friendships for clicks, even admitting, "My whole life became dedicated to trying to make something worth watching." And what of the audience? What about the fact that we all enjoy playing Big Brother? In the autumn of 2021, an American student was nicknamed the Couch Guy by the internet after his long-distance girlfriend filmed herself surprising him with a visit. TikTok commenters decided that he looked insufficiently enthusiastic when she arrived and accused him of infidelity because he was sitting next to other girls on his couch. The audience thought they could see inside his head, accusing him of psychopathy and analyzing the angle of his knees to determine that he was disinterested, in a manner not dissimilar from 1984's Thought Police. This feels remarkably similar to Winston's experiences of face crime. Letting your face betray your thoughts in public with, for instance, a nervous tic or an anxious or incredulous look that the ubiquitous telescreens can easily detect. From smartphones tracking our every move to smart home devices listening in, this pervasive sense of being watched rings all too familiar in today's age of big data. Even if we opt out of being influencers and decide not to video ourselves at brunch, we risk being observed and scrutinized like Winston and the student dubbed Couch Guy. The student wrote about the incident's toll and the anxiety it produced. He had no previous desire for internet fame, let alone infamy. But today, strangers record anyone and everyone with little concern for consent. Creators set up random honesty tests where they drop cash in front of strangers and record them to see if they return the money. So-called kindness videos show influencers offering unwitting strangers flowers. Audiences have their hearts warmed. Still, the people featured in these videos often complain. People who don't come across well in surprise videos like this are often hounded in comment sections, accused of being abusive, racist, sexist, criminal, or mentally unwell based on a facial expression in a 10-second clip. At the turn of the millennium, Big Brother's concept transformed from a totalitarian idea to an entertaining reality television format. In today's world, we willingly accept facial recognition as a measure of safety and allow our digital data to be mined and sold by our favorite apps for convenience. In 1998, Peter Fussey, a sociology professor at the University of Essex, began studying surveillance while writing his PhD on CCTV cameras. He was struck by a question: why wasn't there more resistance? Fussey observes that the notion that individuals who have no secrets have nothing to worry about has been in circulation for quite some time. He further highlights that people are ready to sacrifice their privacy for the sake of convenience. Even he sometimes disables his VPN when web pages take too long to load. However, we should not blame each other for surveillance that big tech companies and governments have normalized. Fussey, the director of the Center for Research into Information Surveillance and Privacy, argues that we cannot meaningfully consent to online terms and conditions that would take months of our lives every year to read. Silke Carlo, the director of civil liberties group Big Brother Watch, agrees that we must scrutinize the powerful more than the public. According to her, if we said no to data collection at every turn, even for a day, our lives would be very different. Denying data collection in many cases is almost impossible. And she adds, even oversharing on social media is less of an individual choice than it seems. The design of platforms lends itself to this kind of narcissism. She recalls being troubled when the like button was introduced on Facebook in 2009. I don't think it's a healthy setup for an online platform to have, she says. In normal offline social life, you don't immediately tell somebody whether you approve of them, let alone have an anonymous population-level audience tell you whether they do or not. Many commentators and activist groups are deeply concerned about social media's influence on people, especially children. These platforms pressure people to perform and conform to the norms deemed acceptable by those in power. In the view of many academics, this pressure to conform results from the pervasive sense of surveillance that people experience when they feel watched by the state or their peers. This sense of surveillance can profoundly affect people, leading to self-censorship and altered behavior, opinions, and self-expression. People may feel compelled to align themselves with what they perceive as the norm or what is deemed acceptable by those in power, which can stifle individuality, creativity, and dissent. This is a severe challenge to the principles of freedom and democracy. Encouraging people to conform to the norms of those in power can limit their ability to express themselves freely and engage in open and honest dialogue. In my writings on the topic, I argue that this can undermine the foundations of a free and democratic society. Orwell's insight into how people internalize surveillance is one of the reasons why 1984 was so prescient. Even if the surveillance apparatus changes, the tools, the language, the gadgets, the devices, people's human responses remain telling. While the novel has long shown us that we need to resist the forces and institutions that seek to compromise our privacy, it also stresses the importance of freeing our minds, of resisting excessive surveillance and the soul-destroying self-censorship and social policing that accompanies it.
Mathew Henderson's new book, One World Under Surveillance, is available on Kindle, Google Books, Apple Books, and Lulu.com.